On November 18th, 2011, Minecraft 1.0 made its debut, moving Minecraft from its beta version to an official release. That was a long time ago, over 9 years in fact, and a lot has changed during those 9 years, both around the world and in our own lives. At some point during those 9 years, we all decided to start playing Minecraft, and the game itself has changed a lot too. There have been 16 major updates to the game since 1.0, as well as the recent announcement of a 17th. Some updates have been better than others, but all had a lasting impact that shaped Minecraft into the game we play today. My friends and I took a trip down memory lane and decided to go over every one of these updates, ranking them from worst to first. So without further ado, let's get into it. The Frostburn update is the worst update we've seen since the game's official release. Usually when I make these ranking videos, I say something along the lines of, oh, they're all really good, but some are just a little bit better than others. But this update was just plain bad, okay? It added 3 of the most useless and unoriginal mobs in the game: the polar bear, the stray, and the husk. It added a mere 5 blocks into the game, which are the only even remotely cool additions. Fossils, which you may not have even realized were in the game, were also added. Probably the only significant addition was the teleport command, but even that's only useful if you're playing with cheats. But on top of it all, this update added what's definitely, the worst feature in Minecraft history: auto jump. I can't stress enough that this update was by far the worst. This update was pretty basic, but its ranking does come with an asterisk. The added bees were cool, and we'll get to them in a moment, but the real meat of the update was below the surface. This was primarily a bug-fixing update, meaning that although there weren't really any major gameplay changes, lots of problems with the game were finally fixed, and Minecraft was better set up for larger updates in the future. The bees were just for fun. They're well thought out and come with a lot of cool new features and crop mechanics, but their honey wasn't especially useful for anything except maybe parkour and some redstone contraptions. Overall, 1.15 is at the bottom of the pack because there just wasn't a lot added. This update is so boring that Mojang didn't even give it a real name. Although some of the things it added, and pretty much the only things it added, like superflats, spawn eggs, and blacksmith chests, are pretty critical things we take for granted nowadays, the fact is that 1.1 didn't really add much. It's not 1.10 level bad, and none of the additions are annoying or terrible, but there just wasn't much of an update to speak of here. However, it should be noted that while it didn't change the game per se, the addition of 56 new languages was huge for growing the player base and making the game more accessible. This update added a couple of cool late-game features, but overall it joined 1.10 in what was starting to become a stretch of pretty disappointing updates. Maybe we're being a little harsh. The update added observers, which are useful for creating many kinds of compact automatic farms, and llamas, which are, I guess, kinda cool. In addition, the update added 2 great late-game features: shulker boxes and totems of undying, which gave players a reason to go on long expeditions for items even after they finished the main progression of the game. Honestly though, the most disappointing part of 1.11 was its main feature: the Woodland Mansion. The mansions are extremely rare and introduce the new Illager mobs, Vindicator, and Evoker. But unfortunately, the long trek to find a mansion just wasn't worth the meager loot, especially now that raids spawn with pretty much everything you'd get from a mansion. In all, 1.11 had its pros and cons, but Minecraft was slowly fading away from popularity at the time. Although a lot of factors contributed to the decline, another mediocre update definitely didn't help matters. Howdy, neighborino. Couldn't help but notice that you're still watching the Viddly Diddly. I assume that means you like it. So if that's the case, why not subscribe? Only a teensy tiny percentage of our viewers are subscribed right now, so that means I have to do these stupid gimmicks to get people to click that button. It would mean a lot to us if you'd subscribe and like the video. Did somebody say mediocre? We present to you 1.12, the world of color. There wasn't anything necessarily bad in this update, but nothing too impressive either. Concrete powder, and of course concrete, emerged as a good way to add bright, clean color to builds, and the new glazed terracotta could create beautiful patterns if used right. Along with these additions, this update added parrots, a friendly new bird found in the jungle. Now, I'd like to say that I do actually like parrots a lot. They're colorful and they make great pets. I'm not prejudiced against them. In fact, some of my best friends are parrots. But parrots were just another addition in what was becoming a disturbing trend for Minecraft. Mojang was constantly adding new mobs, which was cool, but it was starting to seem like they were adding things just for the sake of adding them. Polar bears, llamas, parrots, they add a fun ambiance to the game, but they weren't at all fleshed out. It was just more content for the sake of more content, without any real rhyme or reason or gameplay changes. Overall, this update was pretty small, but it still added some cool things that made Minecraft feel a bit more complete, and of course, colorful. The name pretty much says it all for this update. Obviously, horses were added, along with all the things you needed to take care of them, such as leads, hay bales, horse armor, and name tags. In addition, carpets and stained clay, now known as terracotta, were added, and a new game launcher was released. The new launcher was more user-friendly than the old one and made it much easier to switch between different versions of the game, which definitely was helpful for making this video. Overall, this update was a little below average. Horses were a nice addition to Minecraft's whole medieval quest theme, but between minecarts, elytra, boats, and just plain sprinting, they were never really an effective method of travel. This update was the first truly big update since 1.0, and it added some pretty iconic features. One of the game's most visually interesting and unique biomes, the jungle, was introduced, including ocelots and new jungle wood. The height limit was also doubled from 128 blocks to 256 blocks, allowing for taller and better builds. But the best part of the update was probably the way its next few features, although a little small and simple by modern standards, combined to create an interesting and strategic PvE challenge. As of 1.2, zombies could now spawn in sieges, with dozens of mobs converging on a single village to terrorize the inhabitants. If this wasn't scary enough, 1.2 gave zombies the ability to bash down wooden doors horror movie style. This new threat forced players to make their villages and homes as secure as possible using iron golems, also added in the update, and iron doors. In all, the update didn't add a ton, but it's full of solid additions that helped lay the groundwork for what Minecraft is today. This update was really the definition of average. It added some nice stuff like banners and armor stands, slime blocks could be used for flying machines, piston doors, and some other contraptions. Diorite, andesite, granite, and prismarine were some good new building blocks, sea lanterns were a clean-looking new light source, and rabbits were cool, I guess. The new ocean monuments were a fun challenge that added interest to otherwise boring oceans at the time. That's really all there is to say about this update. There wasn't really any overarching theme, just a bunch of random things that weren't bad, but weren't especially useful either. Some updates get lost in the middle of the rankings because they're forgettable, because they didn't really add anything of value. Not 1.14. This update was a major change to an aspect of the game, and with that came some pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. This update was basically a complete revamp of villages and the way they operate from the bottom up. With work blocks, beds, and new professions, villages felt alive again, while new pillager enemies created a constant struggle between good and evil in challenging raids and patrols. However, the downside of all this, or I guess the upside depending on how you want to look at it, was how easy it became to obtain late-game items. Just by trapping a few villagers and replacing their work block a couple times, players could basically gain instant access to rare enchanted books and armor, while raid farms could be exploited to get practically infinite amounts of totems of undying. Basically, 1.14 was a great update that made villages more interesting than ever, but in a way it took away some of the grind and difficulty of the game. To be fair, it added a ton of new features and blocks to the game, such as bamboo, barrels, bells, blast furnaces, campfires, cartography tables, composters, fletching tables, grindstones, jigsaw blocks, lanterns, lecterns, looms, scaffolding, smithing tables, smokers, stonecutters, sweetberry bushes, new types of signs, slabs, stairs, and walls, cornflowers, lily of the valleys, nether roses, blue, brown, black, and white dye, crossbows, leather horse armor, suspicious stew, cats, foxes, pandas, brown mushrooms, pillagers and ravagers, wandering traders and their llamas, bamboo forests, and snow villages. This update added jungle and desert temples, which make worlds a little more interesting to explore and are a good way to get loot, as well as ender chests and tripwires. Sandstone stairs and different types of wooden stairs and slabs were great additions that help builders create more detailed structures. Villager trading was implemented for the first time along with the new emeralds, giving purpose to villagers and giving players a new way to acquire resources. Some other smaller additions included books and quills, written books, and the bonus chest. Finally, and maybe most importantly, adventure mode was added to the game, which allowed for the creation of playable maps without the risk of unwanted griefing or cheating by placing or breaking blocks. This update is by far the most controversial in the history of the game, so we're on some thin ice just talking about it. Anything we say could spark a full-on war in the comments. The combat changes, namely the addition of an offhand, shields, and attack cooldowns, were pretty unpopular, and we'll talk about those soon, but unfortunately, players get so caught up on that stuff that they often forget about the rest of the things that were added. The end became worth exploring with more islands, chorus fruit, end cities, and elytra, a really amazing feature that completely changed the late game of Minecraft. Regardless of whether you think it made travel too easy, you can't deny that flying is really, really fun. Some other small additions were grass paths, structure blocks, beetroots, dragon's breath, craftable end crystals, lingering potions, and tipped arrows. Anyway, enough stalling. The combat parts of the update, kill cooldown and shields, were controversial and might have made PvP a little less fun. But Minecraft updates are about making PvE more interesting, and that's what 1.9 did. Shields and a kill cooldown add a little more strategy to mob fights besides just spam clicking with a sword. PvP might have suffered, but Minecraft updates aren't designed with PvP in mind, and players can always play an older version of the game if they like. After a few years worth of mediocre updates following 1.9, Minecraft was fading into irrelevancy. Although still a very popular game, Minecraft was becoming stale, and for all intents and purposes it seemed like it would go down in history as just another fad. Some said it was Microsoft's fault. Some said the game was too complicated. Some said it was too simple. Fortunately, over the past few years, the game has surged back to become as popular as ever, and a lot of that was thanks to the first truly great update on this list, the update Aquatic. 1.13 breathed life into Minecraft's oceans and showed that Mojang and Microsoft still had some of that same creativity and magic that made the game so popular in the first place. New ocean biomes and structures made the seas worth exploring again, while new ocean mobs not only added a cool ambiance, but had their own interesting features and mechanics, whether you were getting a shell helmet from a turtle or fighting the drowned in hopes of getting the elusive trident. In all, despite one regrettable feature. The update Aquatic blew most previous updates out of the water, and set a precedent for future updates. This was around when I started playing Minecraft, and it added a ton of redstone-related items, including activator rails, redstone blocks, daylight sensors, droppers, hoppers, comparators, trap chests, and weighted pressure plates. Some players who used redstone a lot loved the update, while others were indifferent. And that's okay, because Minecraft is a game about choosing what you want to do. That's why the redstone update was so great. If you didn't want to spend hours harvesting pumpkins, you could use the new hoppers to collect them automatically while you're away building a house. If you didn't want to waste time sorting out your inventory, you could use the new comparators to organize your items while you're fighting monsters. The redstone update let players tailor their game experience into the way they wanted to play. That's what Minecraft is all about. If you'd have told us a year ago that some of the things in the Nether update were gonna be a part of vanilla Minecraft, it would have seemed too good to be true. Until this update changed everything, the Nether didn't really feel dangerous. And even if it wasn't really worth exploring anyway. In 1.16, the Nether was still hell, sure, but it came alive. New mobs like the piglins and hoglins kept the atmosphere strange and hostile, while biomes like the Crimson and Warped Forests were beautiful and eerie at the same time. Not only was the Nether worth spending time in, thanks to Nether wood types and respawn anchors, players could actually live there. The craziest part of the update, however, was Netherite. It gave a great late-game challenge to players looking to upgrade their gear without totally upending the traditional leather, iron, gold, diamond progression. A perfect compromise that opened up a world of possibilities for the future. In all, we got a ton of new creatures, blocks, structures, and of course, pig step. This update had a lot of fun, small features. Carrots on sticks let players ride pigs. Flower pots and item frames gave players more interior design options, and witches were a tough new mob to fight for players who'd gotten a little too used to zombies and skeletons. But there was also some pretty fundamental stuff in this update. Anvils let players rename items at first, eventually becoming a way to imply enchantments. The Wither was a new boss that dropped nether stars, a crafting ingredient used in the new beacons. 1.4 pretty much invented what we now call the endgame of Minecraft by giving players goals to achieve once they'd killed the Ender Dragon. Players had to grind for wither skulls, build a wither, fight a wither, craft a beacon, gather all the blocks needed to bring the beacon to full power, and then use the beacon's powers to fight monsters or build a huge base. All the while, players could use anvils to build up a set of perfect enchanted armor. What really made this update one of the best, though, were command blocks. These blocks opened up a whole new facet of the game, allowing players to easily and automatically run all the commands needed to create homemade parkour maps and minigames. In all, a fantastic update that stretched the limits of what players could do. This update was absolutely huge, and every single part was amazing. Tons of new biomes were added to the game, including dark oak forests, ice spikes, savannas, mesas, flower forests, and many more, as well as 2 new wood types, acacia and dark oak. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly makes Minecraft so great, but part of it is that there's always something new to discover. 1.7's amazing new world generation made Minecraft feel that way again. Players had tons of new places to explore and to build bases, and a bunch of new block palettes to work with. Stained glass and new flower types gave builders and landscapers the chance to add a little more color to their creations. Overall, this was hands down one of the best updates in Minecraft history. Because we haven't seen or had the chance to test all of the features in this update yet, we can't give it an official ranking. But based on what we know so far, this update could very well be the best ever. In a game called Minecraft, mining should be one of the core features of the game. But most players don't want to spend time mining because it's, well, boring. Minecraft's underground hasn't really been updated since the early days of the game. Caves all look the same and aren't particularly interesting or challenging. Check out the videos in the description for a more detailed recap, but this update will change all that, completely revamping the underground world and putting the mine in Minecraft once again. After all that, one update remains, and what would it be but the one that started it all? The first official release of Minecraft, Minecraft 1.0. This update pretty much shaped Minecraft into the game we know today, adding everything from music discs to crucial steps in beating the game. Enchanting was added for the first time, as well as potion brewing, giving players the opportunity to gain more powers even after they'd collected a full set of diamond gear. But even more importantly, Blazes, Eyes of Ender, the End Dimension, and the Ender Dragon were added, basically creating the survival progression of Minecraft. This update transformed Minecraft from a very simple sandbox into the game we know today, with some of the most significant additions in Minecraft history. For that reason, it is by far Minecraft's best update. Thanks for watching.